Welcome to the Building Newfoundland and Labrador podcast, dedicated to exploring the interesting journeys of the people in the provincial construction industry. Presented by the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association, produced by Gale Force Winds. Join us as we chat with the inspirational individuals that ensure the continued growth of the construction industry and the province of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Welcome to the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association podcast. What a pleasure it is to be here today. I'm Alan Dale. With me, as always, my good buddy, Jerry Carew. Fred, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you. Frederic Bettez. I'm a managing director at the CIB, the Canada Infrastructure Bank. I worked in the investments group at the CIB, and we'll talk about the CIB a little more later, but I'm basically in charge of building retrofits and broadband investments.
Interesting. What was your journey to get you there? Where did you start? How did it all come
Start from the beginning.
Start from the beginning.
I won't go too far back,
Okay.
but I'm an engineer by training, and so I enjoyed engineering. I enjoyed business also, and I wanted to combine the two. I went back to the MBA in finance, which is not unusual for engineers. But I fell into the world of infrastructure investing in 2004, worked for different banks, international banks and Canadian institutions. And started investing in what was called public-private partnerships. Then it still is, but more popular at that time. I moved on to working into the renewable energy business, and eventually, just grew the breadth of projects that I was financing and looking at. And the bank was created, was 5 years ago now, 2017, to invest in infrastructure projects for Canadians. And so I got a call one day saying, "Hey, do you want to come and work for the CIB?" And I thought it was a great opportunity to diversify the types of projects we can invest in as an individual, but also as a country. And here we are today, investing in all sorts of very innovative and new projects.
So you're the managing director. Did you start as the managing director? Or?
So I'm a managing director. As any big bank, there's a lot of titles.
Yes.
Right.
So the bank is more or less half of the bank works in the investments group. So there's 5 managing directors with different sectors of expertise. And then we have the rest of the bank. We have legal functions, asset management, treasury, finance, I should say, and communications and risk. And across the 5 managing directors, we cover transit projects. One covers trade and transport, so ports, airports, rail. Wow. One covers clean power generation, so wind power, solar, and the like. I cover broadband, and then we have a very interesting sector called green, and that sector is pretty wide. We cover building retrofits, low carbon fuels, hydrogen, energy storage, wastewater and drinking water treatment. And so it's really that sector where we can really go towards energy transition, if you want to call it that.
Right.
If that word was known at that time, that's what it would have been called potentially.
Everything you described there, I mean, one thing that was kind of bubbling in the back of my mind was cybersecurity. Is that something that's top of mind for you folks?
We do a lot of work in the defense sector.
Yeah, okay. So we don't. So we have a broadband mandate, which is right now primarily focused on bringing broadband to the home, right? So people can study from home, work from home, get healthcare services at home. Right. That's our main concern. Cybersecurity is not certainly a focus of investments. It's certainly a concern for all of us.
Right.
But it's not a sector of investment. Maybe someday we'll be in a broader mandate around connectivity, artificial intelligence, and the like. Right now, it's not of our mandate. It's not really part of it. But certainly, we certainly recognize that it's important. We deal with a lot of confidential information, as you might imagine, making investments. So it's a concern of ours, but not an investment focus.
Not an investment focus.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association, explain to me the connection between you and them.
Sure. So we have a team of people that stay in touch with industry in the public sector in terms of promoting the mandate of the bank and looking at new opportunities to invest. And through our discussions, we came into contact with the association, and obviously because we invest in projects, there's a natural link in being involved with a construction association. Specifically today, though, we are here to talk about building retrofits. We We have $2 billion to invest in building retrofits, improving energy efficiency, reducing GHG emissions, converting buildings, heating systems from oil or natural gas to electricity. And the way we do this is we work with large building owners in lending or investing money with them to retrofit their buildings. Or we work with what we call aggregators, where we form pools of capital or new companies to retrofit buildings for others. And we've so far formed 4 of those, and we'd like to form a few more, so that if you own a building today and you want your building to be retrofitted, or net zero if you want to call it that, you could tender this to one of those aggregators, and they would retrofit your building and sign a long-term contract where they would share some of the savings with you.
Interesting.
And it's fully paid for, it's fully financed.
That's fascinating.
Now, we have 4 of those, we'd like to have more. They're usually, as you might imagine, Toronto-based or Montreal-based,
Right.
Calgary-based, and we're trying to find companies that would like to start one here, or in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick or PEI, and serve the Maritimes. Now, Maritimes will still be served by those national brands, but it would be nice to have a homemade solution. So we've been working with the association. We did a workshop online about 2 weeks ago explaining this to the members. We were here this morning for an hour and a half with an open door session where people could walk in, and we would talk to them specifically, and we were having individual meetings with contractors who are interested in getting into the business. We're also meeting with the province, the city, and other organizations such as universities to also bring that concept to the market, because we need people to form aggregators to retrofit buildings, but we need clients.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to encourage the clients to call on the industry to retrofit buildings and try to get that market going. We would love to have a home-based solution here that can renovate buildings here with the trades and entrepreneurs from here.
I got a question. Footprint of a building. Is there a set minimum threshold?
What's the
maximum?
sweet spot?
Yeah.
So our threshold is large. It's $25 million, which usually requires more than one building. And so that's why we partner with building owners or with aggregators. So if we invest $25 million with them, they put in some of their money for about $30 million, let's say, so 25 plus 5.
Right.
And then they can go and retrofit anything they want. It's their choice. It's their business. They could do $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. That's the beauty of that model, is we rely on the private sector to come up with a business plan. What's your focus? What industry do you want to focus on? What geography? What technology do you want to deploy? Do you want to specialize in the building envelope, or mechanical systems, or artificial intelligence, even in building management systems? That's not for us to tell them. We give them objectives. Do deep retrofit, at least 30% GHG reduction or more, and here's the money to use it. So if you follow those criteria, we'd like to work with you. And we let them develop their own market. So what we would expect to see here is either people to focus on smaller buildings, because there's a big market for that, or they'll want to focus on large institutions like province, city, university, or industries, right? And so, but that's up to them. That's what we want them to start thinking about, and we'd like them to come to us with a business plan.
Now, I would imagine it's not only private industry that would be interested in what you're offering, but also governments.
Yes.
Like, because what you're talking about, like universities and things like that, these are government-owned properties. So I guess you're in conversation with government as well?
We are. There's a huge demand there. As you might imagine, governments have a mandate for decarbonization, so that ticks the box. Governments also have tight financing situations, so we provide the financing.
Right.
Governments also have some backlog of maintenance sometimes that they might as well get done at the same time. So it's a perfect market for
fit.
this. And with this approach of aggregators, they can address the market very quickly. Say, can you please do this? We'll sign a 15-year contract. Yes, thank you very much. We have the financing. So we're trying to make it easy on the client and on the suppliers of that service.
Right.
And because they are the biggest client potentially, they have the biggest buildings. They are sometimes also have the oldest buildings.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds like the perfect conduit to connect industry and government together, to work together on solutions like this.
Look, the mandate of the bank, there's different prong to it, but one of them is to attract private capital in our projects to perform work in projects that are benefiting the public.
Right.
Right. So rather than the taxpayer always paying for it, we'd like the private sector to come in, invest its money, take some risk in the performance, and get paid for it.
And
obviously.
profit from it, yeah, of
Profit
course.
from it within reason.
Yeah.
Right. and get a good deal for the government. So the
Yeah.
government gets a risk transfer, a convenience factor in many cases. You don't have the expertise necessarily, so
Right.
you're conveniently outsourcing this to the expertise and get something in return, which is a retrofitted building that is, if not net zero, at least much more efficient.
It's a beautiful approach.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful approach for sure. It's agile in nature. It can solve problems. It's fantastic, and it sounds like you're having great luck with the NLCA.
Absolutely, they've been a great partner. I think that's what we need. We need the outreach to the market to create these things. We need the collaboration to put us in touch with the right contractors, sometimes with government officials, to just make sure we can pull all of this together. And hopefully it's going to bear fruits, and we'll see some projects in the next few months or within a year. So.
You know what I love about what you're doing? You're going to be, you save money forever, in perpetuity, when you do energy efficiency. That's the thing I like about it. So I just think this is a brilliant idea, and I'm really happy that you came here. Thank you for doing this.
Well, thanks for your time. Thank you for doing this.
Well, a wonderful conversation right here on the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association podcast. What a very innovative solution for Canada. I'm so glad that you took time out to explain it to us, and hopefully some of the members will watch this and find their place in your projects, and a real win-win for Canada and for Newfoundland and Labrador. So thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
Merci beaucoup. Très bien.
See.
Thank you for tuning in to the Building Newfoundland and Labrador podcast, presented by the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association, produced by Gale Force Winds.